It's time for another edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout. Thanks so much for joining me here today. We are going to do another best of show with Newton School Superintendent Tom Messnger. On Monday, we're going to have a really interesting interview for you on our podcast with Leah Demarest, who is a counselor out of Ames. She's originally from Newton, about how to beat the winter blahs. And a lot of people have the winter blahs or winter blues, whatever you want to call them. And so we'll be addressing that on Monday, so make sure that you check out our podcast then. I want to thank our sponsors, including Ryan's Tire and Auto on First Avenue in Newton. Gang at Ryan's, thank you for your business in 2024 and look forward to seeing you in 2025. They're so thankful for their customers at Ryan's Tire and Auto. Also, Tony Pesca, Iowa Realty. She's a great lady, a great salesperson, and if you are a person that needs to buy or sell a home, talk to Tony. She found the right home for Little Red and myself, and she'll find the right one for you. And also by Advantage Credit Union.
Are you feeling financially drained? Tired of high interest rates and endless debt? Fear not, your financial superhero has arrived. Advantage Credit Union is here to rescue you from financial distress. With our powerful loan refinancing options, you could lower your monthly payments, shorten your loan term, and free up cash for a brighter future. Unleash your financial superpower today. Call us at 641-792-5660 or apply online at acuiowa.org.
Subject to credit approval, terms and conditions may apply. See credit union for details. Federally insured by NCUA.
Time for another edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout, and I am your humble host, Jamie Grout, here today with Newton's Superintendent of Schools, Tom Messnger. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Very glad to be here. It's always great to talk with you, Jamie.
Okay, I want to jump right in. We're just about ready for school to start. When does school start for the Newton Public Schools?
August 23rd is when our kids will be coming back into our buildings.
And what is your forecast for the upcoming school year? What do you think?
This is always one of the busiest times of the year, but it's also one of the most exciting. This is my 32nd year of working in public education. And, when you at 54 years old, you go back to this, I started my very first day of school ever when I was 5. And I've experienced the first day of school ever since then. So I look forward to it every year.
How about that? We have a new high school principal, and a while back on one of my podcasts, we talked to Bill Peters, who's transitioning 20 years at the high school, now over to DMAC as the provost. Sounds like he has some big shoes to fill.
Absolutely. I refer to Mr. Peters as Mr. Newton. There's no doubt that his commitment and dedication to the schools here is just top notch. And I've gotten to know our new principal, Michael Dale, over the last month and a half since he started working here. And, while he doesn't have the history in Newton, not being from here like what Mr. Peters was, Mr. Dale definitely brings with him a great skill set, very intelligent guy, very committed to education himself. And I think that he definitely has an awful lot to offer us.
Tell us about his history. Where does he come from? And has he been a principal before? Has he been a teacher? What did he teach? So give us a little more about his background.
Well, you're going to have to excuse me. I didn't bring his resume with me, so I'm going to be speaking from memory here.
Sure.
But his most recent job was as an assistant high school principal in Marshalltown.
Okay.
Prior to that, he had been building administrator and an athletic director at a smaller school in Southwest Iowa. And one of the things I just learned this week, we were at the School Administrators of Iowa conference up in Des Moines, and every year they have awards for administrators at different levels, and what they do is they announce who the elementary principal of the year is, the high school principal of the year, and then they also have assistant principals. And when they announced who the assistant principal of the year was in Iowa, the finalist for that was Michael Dale. So we did not know that he was a finalist for that. And so while he didn't get the assistant principal of the year, being named the finalist is a pretty big deal.
Sure.
He was the only finalist listed up on the screen. So, I definitely know that we're getting someone who has had some accomplishments that has given him some success and show that he's contributed to the Marshalltown School District.
Mm-hmm. Going from a Bobcat to a Cardinal, one of our arch rivals over the years. So that's neat. I don't know whether he's going to still be loyal to Marshalltown or Newton or what. I hope he's loyal to Newton when we play each other.
Well, I have seen him wearing some red lately.
Okay, good. That's a great sign. Let's talk a little bit about the open enrollment situation at Newton High School. You gave a great presentation at the Newton Rotary Club here a couple of weeks ago. How is the school system addressing that, Tom?
Well, first of all, we do know that we have more open enrollments out than we do in the Newton Community School District, and there are some of the things there that you can have some control or do some things about, and there's other things that we just don't. We are never going to be the small school. And there are some families that we recognize, they choose to go to or attend a small school rather than in a school the size of Newton. But some of the other things that we take very seriously, how is it that we can reach our parents? How can we get people engaged? And one of those would be through communications. We have a new communication tool this year that we're using in the district, from buildings and classrooms to better communicate, more consistently communicate with our parents, called Parent Square. And that way it takes the guessing game out of it. Right now, some people use Facebook, some use Twitter, some use email, text messaging, different apps that are out there. And the problem with that becomes now you're, as a teacher, you may only have to know one, or as a principal, you may only have to know one. But if you're a parent that has kids involved in multiple activities and seeing 5 or 6 teachers in a day, as a parent, you could have to go 5 or 6 different places or more for communication. So we're streamlining that down to one. We also are working really hard. We want to make sure that we're able to provide the best programs for all of our kids and provide opportunities. I tell you, having Mr. Peters in the job at DMAC I view that as a loss to us, because we don't have him as principal anymore, and he's definitely proven himself there. But he's in a position now where he can really help push for expansion of some of those programs for our students and for our kids here in the community. So those are some other things, but also we also try to communicate out the good things that are going on in the district.
Let's talk about those.
We got a lot of things going on. We are regularly seeing successes in some of our different athletic programs, different state tournament or state event appearances. We've got speech our speech and debate program is very successful. If you go and
let me jump in just real quick. You heard the podcast I had with Bill Peters. Let me tell you, my dad is up there at that great schoolhouse in the sky, smiling down on the debate program being reenacted at Newton High School, because if I could brag on my dad for just a moment, he had championship debaters at Newton High School. And then there was one debate coach between my dad and Frank Cruz, and that was a gentleman by the name of Aschenbrenner. And then Cruz carried it on, and my sister was in debate. I was never in debate. I was in speech. But my dad took a lot of pride in that. And after my dad passed away, I kept some of the trophies that he had and some of the memorabilia students had given him over the years and whatnot too. And he was so disappointed when they got rid of the debate program. So that's really good. I think it helps kids reason. I think it helps figure out logic. I think it helps hone students' studying skills.
Well, not only that, every student comes in with different interests and different talents. If you are ever looking for something to do, keep your eyes on the calendar, because I tell you, you go and you watch, whether it be a band concert, a choir concert, our drama productions and our musicals, just amazing performances. And then you look at the work that some of our students have done, the success they've had in the arts. There's a lot to be said for that, because typically what you see happen at a lot of schools across the country when the budgets get tighter and tighter each year, sometimes the arts programs are the programs that go.
Sure.
We still have a lot of those opportunities for our kids here. And not only do we have those opportunities, they're great opportunities with a strong history and continued success, which it's fun to go watch those.
Sure.
It really is.
Something that's near and dear to my heart is schools addressing the issue of bullying. And I know teachers and administrators can't do the whole thing. The parents have to come through and do their part also. But I was bullied pretty bad in fourth grade. I don't think they hold kids back like they used to back in those days, but my parents had me stay in fourth grade a second year so I could hone my math skills a little bit better. But boy, bad response in terms of fellow classmates and whatnot, to the point where I was moved over to a whole nother class in my next year after that. And I had a teacher come to my rescue. Her name was Helen Forbes, and she was wonderful. And she told those kids who were picking on me, "You leave Jamie alone," and they did. And they were great after that. And in fact, a few years ago, the guy that was the head bully at one of my class reunions came and apologized to me. And it was fantastic. It was great. So is that a big issue? You hear about that from time to time. I know, unfortunately, a few years ago, a youngster in Colfax had committed suicide over that whole thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jamie, because that is another one of the highlights that I want to mention. You and I are at the age where, when we were kids, the bullying incidents really slowed down or stopped when you went home or when you got that physical separation. What makes it worse today is with cell phones and social media.
Exactly.
There is no stop to it.
Right. It's worse now than what it was back in the day. I mean, sometimes they'd say, "Oh, boys will be boys," just like that. But now, you bet.
And I think that the oftentimes that's what becomes difficult for people our age to understand, because that just wasn't there when we were kids.
Right.
We actually last year put in place one step to address it a little bit better, and that was we've got a board policy, which every school district does, to address bullying, but there's a form that you fill out that basically brings the bullying to light of school employees or school administrators. The problem with that form is that if you don't have the form at home and you come in, you're handed the form, you're asked to fill it out. Oftentimes, rather than turn around driving back in, I'm just not going to fill it out. And it becomes frustrating. We made that online so people can actually fill out a bullying complaint form
at their leisure.
You can do it right there on your phone. So that was the first thing we did. The other thing is that just this week on Tuesday, all of the administrators went through bullying and harassment investigator training, and we have a follow-up meeting on it. It's done by a lady that is a retired superintendent, retired principal, that's been doing this type of training for people for a number of years. I went through it late last winter with her. I was really impressed with the process and everything. So to try to gain some consistency, all of our administrators went through that. And the one thing that was really kind of hammered home to all the administrators was this myth that's out there that if I'm picking on you, Jamie, every single day, bullying you like what you described when you were in fourth grade, and you haul off and hit me. The myth that's out there is that's not bullying because you hit me back. But in reality, bullying behaviors or inappropriate behaviors are regardless, or they're wrong regardless of whether it's one direction or two directions. It's just a matter of, okay, did Jamie handle it completely okay or not? And if you didn't, then we can address that with you, but it doesn't take away what I did. And so we're really focusing more on that aspect of it, making sure that we do a thorough and good job of investigating these, and also communicating with the parents.
Mm-hmm.
One of the worst things in the world, the worst feelings in the world as a parent, is if your kid comes home upset, and you don't know anything about it because you haven't been communicated with. And so we're really making sure that we are, upholding our end of the deal, that when parents send their kids to school, that they're sending them to a safe learning environment. And we want the kids to love to come here. We want this to be the school of choice. And to do that, we have to be looking for ways to build that confidence that people have in us.
Well, that's fantastic that you're addressing that, and I think you have a good plan set in motion there. Let's also talk about the school situation in terms of the buildings and what's going on this year and in the next couple of years too.
Yes, that's kind of been all over the news over the last couple of years. We started it actually back when I first came in 2020. There were discussions about the budget, and we really were able to put those on hold for a while because when the pandemic set in, schools got ESSER dollars, or what a lot of people call COVID dollars, to help offset some of the additional costs that came about as a result of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
During the pandemic, we were using those dollars to fund, I believe it was just over 21 FTE, 21 full-time positions in the district. That money all dried up. It's gone now. The pandemic's over. And so now our budget is really based on the dollars that we generate through student enrollment. And so as a result, a little over a year ago, we started talking about our how do we bring the budget in line so that it doesn't continue to be going in the wrong direction. And around 80% of our general fund budget is salaries and benefits. And so you can't just keep cutting people without affecting programs. You can't keep cutting positions without impacting the job that you do. But we also saw some of our class sizes, especially at the elementary level, that were dipping down. I mean, we had some of the smallest class sizes of any school around us.
And then you don't get reimbursed. The lower the enrollment, the lower the money.
That's right. I mean, we're paid by the state on a per pupil basis. And so it was necessary to look at closing a building down. So we went through, we had some community engagement meetings. We talked about, how do we make this happen? What does the community want? And the outcome was a decision that we would go down to 2 elementary buildings from the 4 that we currently have. And we knew that it was going to take some construction work, some additions, some remodeling. And after numerous board meetings, lengthy discussions, the decision was made that starting for the 2026-2027 school year, Aurora Heights and Thomas Jefferson will be our 2 elementary centers. And the reason that's a couple years out, we've got to add a gym and some classrooms onto Aurora Heights, redo the office structure, some classroom additions to Thomas Jefferson Elementary. But that scope of work over at Aurora Heights is significant enough. We have to close that building down next year to be able to do the work. So next year, I say next year, heck, it's coming around in a couple of weeks. It's this year, 2024, 2025 school year. We'll be using Emerson Huff, Woodrow Wilson, and Thomas Jefferson for a 2-year period of time to allow the rest of that work to be done. So the end result's going to be 2 elementaries with 5 sections of kindergarten and first grade in them, 4 sections of second, third, and fourth grade in them.
Oh, great. I have to ask this because not long after you first came to town, I got together with you and the manager of High V to talk about a program for snacks for the kids at Emerson Huff and whatnot. You said to me then, "Hey, Jamie, do you want to be a bus driver? Are you still in need of bus drivers?"
I think we've got I think we're set with our regular drivers. We do need subs. And all the final bus routes aren't set yet. So when I say right now we're set with bus drivers, that could change too.
Okay.
You never know.
Hey, maybe that'll be a new occupation for me. I don't know.
We can get you licensed, Jamie. Do you have any experience?
No experience, not at this point, but you never know. You never know. I want to get back to a serious topic, and I kind of talked to Bill Peters about this too. What is your take on some of the book banning that's going on in schools, private schools, and also budgets for schools? I know I've asked you a lot of questions in those 3 right there, but I mean, that's a lot of stuff that school boards and school administrators have to address these days.
Yeah, you know what, unfortunately, the political world that we live in seems to have become much more divided than I ever remember it. I think that it's just where we are right now. Sometimes I feel like schools get caught up in that political divide. And I think that overall, I'm not going to say that no school has ever done anything wrong or has never pushed it too far. But overall, schools have really done a pretty good job of policing things and managing things, because we've had board policies in place for a long time to be able to address these. If there were a book that you found objectionable in our library, or a book that should not have been used, we had a board policy which very clearly laid out how you go about having the district reconsider having access to that book from our students. So I think that it really, in bringing that to the forefront of the news, it kind of led people to believe that all of a sudden schools are being asked to do something about materials. Well, we already were. And part of that is, kind of shame on us as a school, because we didn't ever really publicize or broadcast that we've got these systems to be able to handle that. And sometimes that's where I think schools really fall short. We're not always really good at communicating out the things that we've got. And we've got to do a much better job with that. On the school funding aspect, that is something that, obviously we play the hand that we're dealt. We have a budget that gets determined by the state, and then the board has to determine, how do we want to break that budget down. But it is tough. I mean, the price of goods since the pandemic has gone way up. I think that some of those types of things, school is just like a family on a fixed budget. When the price of goods goes up, it's a lot harder on your bank account. And so we do have to figure out different ways to be able to do that. I think it's a challenge because not only does that the prices go up here at school, but you see more kids coming in with food insecurities. You see transportation becoming a bigger deal for families because the price of gas goes up. And as a result, at school, we want to try to do a better job each and every day and each and every year of meeting the needs of our kids and families. But I feel like our purse strings are getting stretched about as far as they can in a lot of aspects.
Well, and that kind of goes back to the whole thing about enrollment in schools and open enrollment and whatnot, and that leads me kind of into my next question about privatization of schools. Apparently, Governor Reynolds feels money needs to be put toward that, along with the Iowa legislature. I hate putting you in a political spot here, Tom, but I've got to ask you your opinion on that.
I will say this: that we already had school choice. There have been a number of different avenues that a student or that parents could opt for their student. I mean, there's private schools, there's home schools, there's open enrollment. So there's a number of different things that could be done. I believe in parent choice. I mean, I think that every parent honestly and truly does want what's best for their kids. So I never debate that part.
Okay.
The challenge that I see, or the problem that I see with it is we have very strict guidelines on budgeting. We have very strict rules that public schools have to follow. I just really struggle with the thought of not having those same types of rules or guidelines in place for any school, public or private, that are taking tax dollars to educate the kids. And that's where, we're held to standards in public schools. And I would just say that, if it's public dollars that are paying for it, then I just believe that those standards should be in place. Outside of that, again, I honestly do believe that every parent has that right to choose the best option for their kids. But again, it's nothing new. Those options have been in place.
Sure. Okay. I want to tell you, too, that since I was terminated from the radio station, I've looked into a lot of different occupations. And I have a friend of mine that I was in school with. His name is Brent Bagnall. And he said, there's a real need for driver's ed instructors. And I know Ryan Rupp takes care of that in the school system and whatnot. And I just kind of decided that isn't in my wheelhouse at this point. Maybe in the future, you never know, but I'd have to take a couple of courses through Indian Hills, and there'd be a lot of hoops to jump through and whatnot. But there is a need for that, and there's a need for other staffing in the schools. We did talk about the school bus drivers. Are you in need of more teachers applying or teachers' aides applying for different positions?
Actually, this year we have really done a pretty good job of getting positions filled. I think we have one teaching position that's currently open. It's a level 2 special education teacher. We've got a backup plan to cover for that if we're not able to find somebody. I know that they're working right now on the rest of our paraprofessional or teacher's aide positions to get those filled. It seems like there's never a day or a week go by that there's not an opening in some area with the district. But I can tell you that this year, where we sit right now, I feel like we're in the best shape that we've been in over the last 4 years.
Fantastic. That is great.
That's a huge relief.
You bet.
But we can still get you signed up, Jamie. We always need subs. We whether it be sub bus driver or a sub
I thought you were
teacher.
talking about submarine sandwiches.
No. Well, food service always needs help too, Jamie.
Yeah, well, we've heard of the lunch lady. I could be the lunch guy, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Hey, the world is wide open for me, I guess, right now.
We'll get you set up. You can come in and job shadow some of these different areas, see what sparks your interest.
Seriously, that's not a bad idea. I might do that as a podcast sometime. That would be fun.
That'd be great. I mean, and you know what? you will, you should, because you will get to see so many of those behind the scenes services that we all take for granted. But if we took them away,
oh yeah,
people would notice.
Sure.
And there's some great people. I mean, our custodial staff, our food service staff, our bus drivers, come spend some time there. I mean, that would be good for you to check into.
I'm going to put that on my calendar for the future. I'm going to do that. That's a great idea, Tom. So before we wrap this up, do you have any questions of me? Anything you want to know about me? Or, I mean, we haven't known each other all that long just since you've been here, but I think I was probably the first person to interview you before you came to Newton. I think you were you in Red Oak?
Red Oak, yes.
Yeah. I interviewed you over the phone for the radio station.
I remember that.
So I'm wondering, do you have any questions of me? Anything you want to know?
I think the biggest thing that I'm curious about, and I guess kind of what sparked my interest on this, was after listening to your podcast with Bill Peters. Over the course of the last several years with you, having experienced Newton schools as a student yourself, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in our school district here?
Well, and I think inclusion, especially females in sports. What is it? Title 19, was that what came in?
Yep.
That came in when I was in high school. That started to be.
Okay.
Back in those days, you never thought, girls wrestling? You've got to be kidding me. That's been a big difference, a big change for things. I think that, as we talked about during the interview, the situation with bullying, especially with social media, has gotten worse. I have not witnessed it myself because I don't have any children, but I know that it is a big problem out there. And it's, again, I will reassert that it's great that you guys are addressing that issue because it is a serious one to me. I think that the schools being more handicapped accessible, it was never really that way when I was in school at all either. And I think that the techniques of learning how to educate have improved. I lived in Waterloo Cedar Falls for a time, and I know some people who were teachers at, I can't remember what they called the school, the lab school or something like that, and it's closed now up there. But a lot of teachers just really studied education. They figured out the best ways of educating kids and how to deal with behavioral issues and whatnot. And I just think it's all improved now over the years. I think that schools have done everything they can to try to kick everything up a notch. And so that's what I've seen. And I'm very proud to be a Newton Cardinal and very proud that we have a great set of teachers, administrators, like you say, custodial staff, coaches. I think our football team's going to do very well again this year. I'm excited about it. It's kind of bringing back the old days because when I was in school, a gentleman by the name of Frank Gilson was the coach. And we had winning seasons every year. And then finally in, 80, 81, we went to state and won that. And then I think with John Jenkins as a coach, we were runner-up. In 79, we were runner-up. And then a few years later, we won the state championship. And then Coach Jenkins carried on the tradition. And then after that, it just kind of slipped a little bit. But I think the football team's going to really come through. I know that that's not a big education thing, but it does, I think, teach you how to work as a team and in any kind of organization that you're in, whether it be football, basketball, wrestling, debate, whether it be in any kind of team. It helps you socialize and get ingrained into working with other people. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And, Coach Swede, he is just, he's an amazing role model.
And he gets his kids involved in the community too.
Yes. He really, he leads by example, and, he has high expectations, but he's very supportive of his kids to help them get there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, a lot of those things that you mentioned with changes. I mean, I think back to over the course, not just of my career in education, but from when I started. We changed when I was in kindergarten. We changed buildings middle of the year to go to a newer building, and I can still remember that was the first time that I had ever seen a white erase board when we went to the new building.
Okay.
And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the neatest thing ever. And now, I mean, it's been replaced by, the interactive big screens and everything else. So,
and that brings up another question, and we got to wrap it up because I'm told the best podcasts are the shorter ones. But I wanted to ask you too, because I saw this on the news the other night. Some schools are not outlined, but asking for the students to leave their smartphones someplace else before they go into class, or maybe give them to the teacher or something like that, so that they can't cheat. And then now we have AI coming in and whatnot. And I mean, what's the school system's approach to all that?
Actually, we're going to be talking about that at upcoming board meetings on our cell phone policies and our handbooks. It's a tough one because enforcement becomes a challenge. I'm one of those people that do not believe in putting a policy in place or a rule in place that you can't enforce. So what's reasonable? How do you go about teaching the kids the appropriate level? But yes, cell phones are a big distraction. And I'm old school enough. I don't know the answer to it because I don't even understand, the ways and the types of things that people do with all their cell phones and technology. It changes so much every year.
Yeah. And AI is really becoming a big part of our lives. I know there's a radio station in Waterloo. Their all-night person is an AI person.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, it's coming in. And I hope we can make it into a good thing. There's some people that think, oh, no, it's going to take our jobs. And I guess being in radio, I had a kind of a fear of that. But I don't know how AI could ever replace the one-on-one connection that people have with somebody who's either on the radio doing a podcast or on TV. It's like putting a robot in charge, and I can't see it, but you never know what's going to happen. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today on Out and About with Jamie Grout.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
This podcast has also been sponsored by Newton Clinic PC. They're hiring. Newton Clinic is looking for a welcoming and organized front desk professional to join their team. Now, if you're passionate about helping others, apply today by sending your resume to mark@newtonclinic.com. That's mark@newtonclinic.com. You can find more information at their Facebook page, Newton Clinic. Also by Pizza Ranch in Newton, Lynette Baker, Halo branded solutions for all your promotional products, Westside Java Coffee Company, Coffee Bar on, of course, the west side of the square in Newton. Also our newest sponsor, Park Center, a Wesley Life community, and Newton Des Moines East KOA.
Introducing RV Sales Made Easy at the Newton KOA and Timberline in Waukee. We're here to take the stress out of selling your RV. Listing an RV online can be time-consuming. Our experts step in to handle the details so you can relax while we do the hard work. We act as your trusted partner from start to finish. That means everything from assessing your RV's value and creating standout marketing to negotiating with buyers and finalizing the sale. Call today, Newton KOA or Timberline Campground in Waukee to schedule your appointment to sell your RV. 563-340-6374. We make it easy for you.
Until next time, out is out. See ya.